After the David Ornstein bombshell, it looks like Chelsea are going fully in on getting Jonathan David this summer. Certainly an interesting player who should have moved away from Lille a few years ago. In this video, we're going to go through how he would fit for Chelsea and why they are going about trying to sign this player. If you want any more transfer videos, please like and subscribe for more. Now, the one thing that is definitely certain with Jonathan David is that he has been prolific throughout his whole career. When he played in the Belgium league for Ghent, just the age of a teenager, he scored a lot of goals and got a lot of assists, and you can't argue with his stats in Ligue 1 either. Despite Lille not really being the best side over the last few years, he has always turned up and been a big provider of goals and assists for the team, and this has improved every single season since he joined. And the last 2 years he's got 26 goals in all competitions for Lille, with a decent amount of assists, being 7 last year and 4 the year before. Something else that is guaranteed is that he doesn't really pick up many injuries. Now, he's picked up a couple of injuries here and there, but he is often not really missing that many games, and since his whole career started, in the last 6 seasons he has played 40 or over games every year, so he was definitely going to be available as much as possible. Including his brilliant output and the fact he could be a good market opportunity, being the fact that he's only got around a year left on his contract, and Chelsea believe they have good relations with Lille so they could get a deal done for cheaper. It definitely means it is a good opportunity for them to buy a player which could have a lot of upside and not necessarily a big downside, with the price being around 30 to 40 million pounds. Now, despite David having a brilliant goal scoring capabilities, he's actually more of a versatile forward. He primarily plays as a second striker in a 4-4-2 formation, or he can play an attack in midfield where he is very much a good striker coming in deeper and progressing the ball. When he first joined Lille, he often struggled to score in the first few months as he was playing as a striker on the last defender, looking for through balls and just being an out-and-out player, not really involved in build-up. But the more his time has progressed at Ligue 1 and Lille, he has proven that he can be fantastic at link-up play and actually come in deeper. He's got a brilliant first touch and can play like a number 10 attacking midfield a lot of the time. Now, his main strength is obviously his non-penalty goals and how much he is scoring per game. He's on an XG of 0.5, so he's expected to score 1 in every 2, and he has done that about the time in the last few years in Ligue 1. Now, even though he's getting around 7 assists, he isn't the most creative, but at 0.14, that's a relatively decent number for a striker who is scoring the amount that he is. But per game, he's only sitting around 2.5 shots per 90, which you would want to increase if he's going to play a lot more in the Premier League. Overall, though, his passing for a forward player is actually very encouraging. His medium range passing is very good. He nearly makes all the ones he attempts per game, and he's very good at short passing, proving he can come deeper and make the right passes with other players like an attacking midfielder or players to work off him. He's also making around nearly 2 passes into the final third per 90 and nearly 2.5 progressive passes, so he does have a creative eye where he can come deeper and send other players through, which could be very important for the wingers at Chelsea where they can get in behind. And one of the reasons he does score a lot of goals is because he is actually quite smart going forward. His XG is about where his goals are. He has a little bit less sometimes, even though he does score a lot of pens, not last year but the years before he has. It's because most of his shots come from within the 6-yard box or just outside it. Every time he gets into position near the box, he works it so he can get it on his left or right foot in a position which helps him get the goal closer. He's someone that might have the orientations of someone that walks the ball in, but he doesn't necessarily do that. He just gets a little bit close. And he's also known to be a back to goal striker. He's very good with the centre backs behind him, and he's very good at even rolling them or passing it out wide, or even turning and taking them on himself. This could be especially good with the aggressive nature because himself is quite a strong player where he can come against these strong defenders and turn them. And it also helps get Chelsea, if they are to sign him, a little bit more pressure up the field. He's a player you could pass the ball up, he could hold it off, and then you can get your fast wingers to run off him on the counter attack. Despite this, there is some weaknesses to the player. For one, his run selection is a little weak in terms of direction, so sometimes he won't make good decoy runs to help players around him, and often he struggles to stay onside when he's actually in the off the ball systems. That's probably why he prefers coming shorter with the ball nowadays than being on the last defender. This is proven by the fact he's getting 0.45 offsides per game, so he's at least getting 1 every 2 games. And he can also be a little rash in fouls. He's making around a foul a game, and sometimes when the ball isn't going to him, he will lash out and pick up stupid cards where he shouldn't really pick them up. But he has sort of taken this out of his game in the last year or so. But he's got not a lot of successful take-ons per game at 0.5, and he's not really having enough touches in the attacking penalty area, only around 4 a game. Sometimes he has the ability to drift out of games because of this, where he isn't in the right positions positions and isn't really aware. And although he may come deep to overall pass the ball out, it doesn't ultimately help them get any more progression, and he doesn't get on the ball enough as you would want. Now, defensively, he does try a lot. He's doing his tackles and interception numbers, which are decent, but most of it isn't really brilliant, and he isn't winning a lot of aerials because he's not the tallest as well. Not being a very physical striker, trying to create space between him and the defender. And although some of his passing stats don't look as bad as they could be, his actual progressive passing stats are really bad. So he is picking up the ball deeper, but it's not necessarily really creating things for his team very often. So a lot of his assists work within the box. But even though he is sometimes a ball to feet player rather than a player in behind, he still probably prefers to be in the other team's box to make good decisions. And another thing which may be a little bit concerned to Chelsea is that his pressing isn't brilliant. If you hit him as the number 9, the main striker going forward, he isn't very good at tracking runners and being shadow marking a midfielder that will come deeper. He often lets people go and seems to get a little bit lost in doing this even at Lille. So at Chelsea, you think it could be even more pressure to do this. Now, on the face of it, Jonathan David is quite similar to some of the Chelsea strikers they already have, such as Nicholas Jackson and Christian Nkunku. Christian Nkunku is also a very good player with the ball to his feet and probably a better creator than Jonathan David would be. However, his injury record is not as good, and he's been injured a lot more than Jonathan David has, and he's probably not as good as back to goal, helping players get out of the counter-attack for Chelsea. And while he might be a better finisher than Jackson overall, looking at his goal record, but sometimes his running and his dribbling ability won't be as good as Jackson from deeper. However, I still think Jonathan David would be a great player for Chelsea because I think he can give them versatility in many positions. He can even play as a 2 up front with Jackson, and they can intertwine with one coming deeper and one progressing past the defenders. And he can also give a little bit more support in that midfield to people like Palmer and Gallagher, so they don't have to always get the ball out to the wingers. He can come back and help with that as well. Now, I've watched Jonathan David a lot over the years, and I would say that he is kind of mediocre at a lot of things. His goal scoring level definitely looks a little bit stat padded than you would see other players. A lot of goals are tap-ins, and he is a bit of a purple patch player, not really scoring for mum. But he is very durable, and he also runs around in different positions. He does love picking up wing positions, and that could help Chelsea with getting their wingers inside a little bit more. And ultimately, I think he can help a lot of the players progress forwards. His link-up play can be very good to play with other players as a plan B option for Chelsea if they needed to bring another striker on. And I do think as a lone striker, if you needed to play him there, he is a good enough poacher to get goals with the creative wingers that they have. He's not someone that's going to do it all by himself. He needs the wingers as well to create chances for him, but at least he's quite reliable in the main positions to score goals. Although he's very good with his back to goal, I do worry about his physicality in the Premier League. He's going to come up against a lot of strong defenders, and there's going to be a lot of pressure on him being the striker up there. This is why I think he would work better with someone like Jackson, and although they are similar players, Jackson is probably a better player at progressing the ball than Jonathan David, who could also possibly get better creative numbers when he's in an elevated position that isn't up front. And I think this signing does make sense because we've seen who Chelsea have been going in for up front. They've moved to the Atletico Madrid striker or someone like John Duran from Aston Villa. It seems like they want a young striker who can develop alongside their team. Obviously, Jonathan David is 24, not the youngest, but he can still develop and it's a reasonable age. He's not going to cost too much money and not be on extreme wages, but it also gives Jackson more time, and I think Jackson deserves more time. And if anything, this signing will actually give him more help to even score more goals, which we saw at a great level at the end of last season. If Chelsea can get him for around 30 to 40 mil, I don't really see anything wrong with a club that spends so much money anyway. Let me know in the comments what you think about this signing, and do you think there was better players out there, or do you think it will end up being a good signing overall? Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.